This is Steve. Let me ask, do you agree with Steve?
As a creative tool, like for someone to use a sample of an existing piece of music for their music, I think it's extraordinarily lazy.
But wait, there's more.
You think the people doing it should be embarrassed for behaving this way. What they're doing is cheap and easy, and everyone else can tell that it's cheap and easy.
Lazy, cheap, and easy. This is how a lot of people see sampling. And honestly, at times I don't blame them. Taking someone else's music, copying and pasting it, and then putting your name on it can be lazy, cheap, and easy from a production standpoint. But here's a problem. This argument doesn't actually make sense or hold up. Now why? Well, today I want to explain why sampling is not cheap, easy, or lazy, and I'll show you 3 pieces of evidence that will convince you. This is serious stuff, guys. I plan on taking this case all the way to the Supreme Court, but I will need funding, so a steady income of likes and subscribes will be enough. Thank you. So let me submit the first piece of evidence. The footage I showed earlier was from a documentary called Copyright Criminals, and in it, this is the famous example that they use. MC Hammers Can't Touch This using Rick James Super Freak as a sample. And to give the devil his due, I kind of agree on this one. From a production standpoint, this is where sampling can be cheap, easy, or lazy. This is pretty much how MC Hammer's beat was made. Not all that impressive. But let's take another song, Kingdom Come by Jay-Z. Now what might surprise you is that this beat uses the same sample. In fact, Just Blaze, producer of this beat, even uses the exact same piece that MC Hammer did, and this sounds drastically different. When you break down how this beat was made, it's anything but cheap, lazy, or easy. First, Just Blaze pitches the song down, making it sound slightly different than the original. Then he isolates all of these pieces and breaks the song up into tiny little chops. After making all these chops, he creates an insanely detailed pattern that absolutely floors me whenever I think about it. Not only that, he also takes an entirely different piece from Super Freak and creates a switch up, which fits perfectly with what he already made. And this is what gets left out of the sampling conversation. Yes, copying and pasting does exist, but what about this? When sampling goes way beyond copying and pasting, is this still lazy? The amount of work required to piece together microscopic little chops in a way that actually makes sense can be grueling. Another great example of this is Jay Dilla and how he made Little Brother.
We rep the ain't got, ain't nobody can't start, no party like us. Same marks, walking the main blocks painted with
what he managed to do was find every microscopic period of the song that had no talking on it. It's the equivalent of someone solving a 10,000 piece puzzle in record time. This sounds normal to you, and that's the thing. Like, he made it sound fluid. He made it sound like it was an actual loop.
You can see how many different pieces Dilla uses and how far apart they are from the original sample. The way that he pieces it all together is just incredible, especially when you consider how hard this must have been using limited hardware.
Now listen.
So the question still remains, is sampling truly an art form? In these examples, the producers are still using other people's music to create their own. Yes, putting together a 10,000 piece puzzle is impressive, but isn't the puzzle's original artwork what's more impressive? So is sampling cheap because the producers don't create the music themselves? Well, yet again, this is yet another side of sampling that never gets talked about. Let me submit the next piece of evidence here. Are You That Somebody, produced by Timbaland, which uses this sample. Now hopefully you noticed something about this example. The music that you hear in Timbaland's beat doesn't actually exist in the sample. The first thing Timbaland does to make this beat is he takes this one note from the sample, and he uses this single note to create his own musical idea. But still, this isn't the full idea just yet. Timbaland then takes a second note from the same sample, and he creates this second musical pattern that works perfectly with the first one. So here Timbaland is taking single notes and creating his own musical ideas. He's creating music where none existed, all with samples of single notes. This is showing real musical ability all through the use of samples. So is this easy, cheap, and lazy? It's not copying and pasting. But again, there's a third argument against sampling that gets made all the time. So let me ask you a question. Let's say you had no idea how to make music and I gave you two choices for an instrument that you can use to make your own song. Option A, you could use a guitar. Option B, you could use a train. Now, if you're a sane person, you're obviously going to choose a guitar because that's an actual musical instrument, but this is where sampling can go even beyond traditional musical approaches. Case in point, System Blower by Death Grips. Now, the sound that you heard in this song is a sample, not of an instrument or a pre-made loop or a piece of music. Here's the sample that was used. It's the sound of the SkyTrain in Vancouver. This is the piece here that was used from the sample. And when we add some effects and distortion onto it, we get a beat. So how is this a cheap or lazy idea? Surely it's easier to make a song out of an actual instrument than the sound of a train. This is something that we see all the time when people use samples. Like JPEG Mafia using the sound of a man wailing for the main melodic idea of his beat here.
Bullet on the blow with the Glock hot. I got straight drop.
And this is the problem with saying something like sampling is cheap, easy, or lazy. Right now, you can find many people that say the same thing about AI art, for example. But there's a difference between making AI art like this and AI art like this. Every art form or style has its cheap, easy, and lazy version and its amazing, complex, and difficult version. Sampling is no different. To say an entire art form is one or the other is to be willfully ignorant in my opinion. There are so many cases where sampling is evidently much harder than just picking up an instrument and playing some notes, requiring much more creativity, technique, and effort. So that is my case for sampling. What do you think? Is this convincing, or do you still think sampling is for losers? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe. If you want some more video essays on beat making, check out the one next to me. Otherwise, I'll see you next week, my love. Bye bye.